So I finally bought a house. This has been a long time coming, something that I've wanted to achieve for so long, and I can't believe I've done it, and I'm so grateful for it. Now I've got to say, it's been a year since I've been on this channel. It almost feels a bit weird trying to speak to the camera after so long. I've taken a very long extended break, but in this video I'm going to go through an overview of my property journey and walk you through the steps and what happened in the overall process. So my initial hurdle was of course saving the deposit. I didn't realize how long this would actually take, and overall it ended up taking me about a year and a half since I first started to save properly for this property, and I completely underestimated how long this would actually take. I'm quite grateful that the properties I wanted to buy was on the western side of Australia, so it wasn't that expensive in relative terms if you compare it to the eastern side of Australia with Melbourne and Sydney house prices. So in relative terms, the price wasn't too bad. I can't imagine what the prices would have been like if I tried to buy something in Sydney, with the median house price in Sydney now being well over $1.6 million. And even then, with my current property, I still had to sell about $15,000 of my stocks, which I was planning to sell anyways, but still, even after selling, it took me this long to save. Now, before we get to the numbers, you guys might recall that I was speaking with different buyers agents and such, and I decided to go with one towards the end of 2023. I did that based on my phone call with him. He also sent me some sample properties that he bought for his clients in the past, and he showed me what the growth looked like, what the purchase price was, what the numbers were, and then what the suburb has done to date so far. So based on that, I was pretty convinced that I wanted to go with that specific buyer's agent, but at the time my savings just weren't quite there yet. So I decided to put a break on it towards late 2023, and I told him I would get in touch with him when I was closer to my deposit. So I parked that conversation up till February this year when I talked to him again, and my initial plan was buy something for less than $450K, although I can go up to $500,000 if required. Buy a property that is a good one in a growing suburb, good fundamentals such as large owner occupiers, planned future government investment, strong rental yield and demand, etc, etc. Now, it's insane how quickly the Perth market moved since my initial conversation with the agent around late 2023, and buying a property within that price range of $500K or even below $450 was just becoming very difficult, and I was almost feeling a bit FOMO because good deals with large land sizes and stuff were very hard to find around that time frame. And I almost felt like I missed the boat, and on top of that, the properties were taking quite a long time to come through the agent. When I signed up with him, he told me that there would be a bit of a waiting period before he can start to send me some properties because he is working with a large number of buyers at the same time, and he didn't want to inflate the buyers, and he wanted to maintain a bit of a quality control, let's say. So based on his guidance, I signed up around March, February, and got a pre-approval done a month later in April so I could start to receive some properties. Now, that pre-approval actually ended up expiring in July, and I actually had no properties sent to me because the delays a bit more than any of us anticipated. But the funny thing is, as soon as my pre-approval expired, he sent a property through in late July. So this is property one. This was in the city of Wanneroo, which is North Perth. This was a 3-bedder, 2-bathroom, 2-garage property built in 2018. Purchase price of $510,000, and this was an off-market deal, of course, with a rental estimate of $610 per week. This put the rental yield at 6.2%, which is quite decent. This area had future plans for government spending, of course, and more development, which will of course lead to more jobs. From the CBD, it was only a 35-minute drive. This was only 192 square meters, so it was tiny. And for somebody that is looking for a property that has a decent land size, I had to say no to it. I just wasn't interested because the land size was just way too small for my liking. Now, at this point, I was getting a little impatient because it had been months since I had signed up with him, and I had only gotten sent one property, and I was getting a little FOMO as well because the market is just going crazy at this point. And then the next month, he sent another property, and this was sent to me in August. This was in the city of Swan, which is northeast Perth, another 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-garage property built in 2015. The purchase price was $587,000, and this was again an off-market deal. The market rent was about $640 per week, which puts the rental yield at 5.7%, but currently it was rented at $508 per week. The area again had lots of plans for government spending and development, which will of course lead to some more jobs, and it was quite close to the city, being 30 minutes away. And the important part, which is the land size, this was 376 square meters. Now we're talking. Now, this property I was genuinely interested in because there were a lot of properties properties of similar land sizes and similar bedrooms and bathrooms going for a lot higher than this, so I knew that this would have been a fairly good deal. Timing wise, this property got sent to me late on a Tuesday night, and it took me a couple days to research the area, research the properties that were selling in this area as well as neighboring suburbs, look at what the government plans were and such. So it took me a couple days to do this, and by Sunday that same week I had decided to go ahead with it, and I sent a quick message to the agent saying let's proceed, let's go through what the next steps look like. And then the next day, which is a Monday, the agent texted me and he's like, I'm sorry, the property has already been sold. Now, this was an absolute shock to me. I didn't realize how hot the market actually was. And to be honest with you guys, I was really disheartened by it because through my research, I got quite emotionally invested into this property, and I could see myself buying this property and having this rented out, and having this as part of my first property portfolio, and seeing it just go away and just being sold just like that was really emotionally, look, I did feel a bit down with that. And as I know, with investing in stock market, you absolutely cannot get emotional, and now I understand that. And the agent tried to rationalize it for me, and he said that most properties are going, and some of them are actually selling for 24 hours. They've been, as soon as they get listed, they get bought up. So realistically, hanging on to a property for even 5-6 days just isn't feasible at times. And on top of that, he asked the seller's agent as to what the reason was for selling this quickly. And what they said was that the sellers were experiencing some sort of financial stress. Now, we will take this with a grain of salt, of course, but if sellers need to sell quickly, they will find a buyer, and oftentimes it'll get snapped up very quickly. And that was a very harsh lesson that I learned, because this property was the one that I feel like got away. So that's property 1 and 2. Now, again, at this point, I am getting a little frustrated because it's been almost 6 months since I started the process, and I still haven't bought a property, and I'm just looking at the gains that have been made. I mean, other suburbs and stuff, and the prices are going up, and it was just getting really annoying. So I decided to up my price range for the purchase price up to $650. Now, the good thing is I work at a bank, and especially in the lending side of things, so I do know how loan applications are assessed. So based on that, I was okay to go up to that high of a purchase price and keep looking. I really didn't want to miss out on something this year. I wanted to buy something this year and just be done with it. And that's when I got sent property number 3, which was in September. This property is in the city of Rockingham, which is South Perth. This is a 4-bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1 garage property built in the 1980s. So it is a much older property than the ones that we talked about previously. The purchase price was $630K, and it was rented out to long-term tenants of almost 20 years. And the current rent that they're paying is $540 per week, but the market rent would be $600 to $650 per week, which puts the initial rental yield as it is now at 4.5%, which is rather low. But the size is 700 square meters, and this was the thing which made me immediately interested, and I was almost fixated in buying this property because it's a massive land size. And the city of Rockingham, generally the properties in this area, if you guys look on Google Maps, all the properties are within 5 to 10 minutes or even less to the beach. They're literally situated next to the bay. This area in general is also going to be having lots of defense spending done because of our wonderful AUKUS treaty that we've signed, which includes lots of submarines and such. And there's a naval base off the coast of Perth around that area, which will be seeing massive upgrades to the tune of billions of dollars. And that means lots more investment, which hopefully drives the prices up. Properties that are 4 bedrooms in this locality sometimes also sell for over $1 million, which was a really good sign. Granted that they are highly renovated and they do look amazing inside. Not to say that my property is worth that much, but it's good to see that properties can sell for that much if they are built well and they're significantly renovated. Along with these reasons, plus strong growth in this area, I decided to go ahead with it. And this time I was very quick with it, and I did not waste any time saying yes to it, and we got the initial process started. The purchase price got eventually negotiated down to $625. I paid the initial $5,000 deposit to the agent, and we got the ball rolling. An initial inspection was done of the property where my buyer's agent had connections on the ground with a real estate agent, and they sent out a person, and that person went into the property. He took about 100 photos, sent me a walkthrough of the entire property as well, the insides of the house as well as the outsides, the back backyard. He even took photos of some issues with the property too, to give me a good understanding of what I'm getting into, because I'm sitting all the way here in Sydney. I'm buying a property that is thousands of kilometers away, so I need to know what I'm actually buying. So obviously this property is 40 years old, so it is clearly lived in, of course, with long-term tenants that have kids as well, so it could do with a nice renovation. But looking at what I saw, I was mostly fine with it. The next step was the building in Perth, which I arranged. This revealed a few issues which were eventually fixed by the seller. I'll talk about these in a different video, but there were some structural issues with the property which were rectified and we were all good to go, but I'll talk about these in a different video. Then I got a valuation done by the bank and went towards formal approval with my bank of choice. Now, given that I work for a bank itself, I know what the process looks like. I've done the calculations and I was pretty confident that I'd get the loan approved at a higher amount than what I initially started with. So that part wasn't an issue. We got the formal approval done and that was all sorted. Although I will say things did get a bit delayed and rushed towards the end. That's partly my fault because I had a lot of things going on at that time and I just wasn't on top of it, but eventually all got sorted. The property ended up settling a couple of days late due to the seller taking a bit more time to rectify the items that were identified in the buyer's agent report. Regardless, it settled around late October. And the aftermath of all that, I am now a proud owner of my first investment property, and I'm very grateful that this journey has finally come to an end after first deciding to do it in April of last year. I've learned a lot in this experience and I'm super grateful to be in this position. This channel has always been about investing, mainly starting off with stocks and ETFs and reviewing ETFs and talking about different stocks and companies, but now I'm excited to talk about property as well in this overall investment journey that I'm on. I'll make a few more videos about property too, given that this journey was the first of its kind for me. I've learned so much and some things definitely didn't go right, which I was very concerned about, so I feel like they will add a lot of value for people that are looking to buy property for the first time. So stick around, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. It's good to be back. Bye now.